Welcome to How Do They Afford That, the podcast that peeks into the financial lives of everyday Australians. I'm Michael Thompson. I'm a writer and the co-host of the podcast Fear and Greed Business News. As always, I'm with Canna Campbell, financial planner, founder of Sugar Mama TV, the financial literacy platform on Instagram and YouTube, podcasts, books, threads, TikTok, keynote speeches, everywhere. Hello, Canna. Are you well?
I'm well, and we're talking about side hustles today, one of my favourite topics, along with sexy super, investing in shares, and building financial freedom, of course.
And manifesting March, and frugal February, and all of these.
I don't like February.
Every time you come into the studio, you're like, this is one of my favourite topics. I'm like, oh, dear Lord.
That's how passionate I am about helping people.
You've said that 50 consecutive weeks now. We are talking side hustles because...
creative side hustles, not just your normal, typical, like do some gardening, do some babysitting, do some dog walking. We're talking ones that you may have never considered about before. And I've totally taken over your normal, traditional introduction, but I just couldn't help myself.
I actually like it. And the fact is that we are doing this because the cost of living crisis is here. It is still here. I don't know anyone who is finding it easy right now. And I know that a lot of people are actually, as you say, having to be a little bit creative in order to get by. So that's what this episode is about. We're going to put together a list, because I love lists, and it is a list of 6 side hustles that you may not have considered. Half a dozen new ideas to maybe bring a little bit of cash through the door.
I feel like I'm going to slip one in extra for good luck. So let's make it 7.
7. I don't know if 7 is a particularly lucky number. Is it?
Should we make
7?
it 8?
Oh, yeah.
Let's make it 8. I'm very superstitious, and 8 is a lucky number.
Do you have 8?
I'm sure I do.
Just make it up as you go along. All right, give us number 1.
Growing bonsai trees.
What?
Yes. So when I wrote the $1,000 project, we ran a competition, and you could win $1,000 with the most creative side hustle. And the winner was this person, and they were making a pretty good little stash of cash. Growing bonsai trees, it was minimal maintenance. And you grow them to a substantial amount from seedlings and then selling them. And you can sell them on Gumtree and various websites, but brilliant.
How much do they sell for?
Well, they're quite expensive, depending obviously on the variety and how big they are and how long they've been growing for, and obviously their health. But you can make a good couple of $100 quite, well, I wouldn't say quickly, but if you're growing, multiple bonsai trees.
And you've got them kind of staggered over the lifespan of them. And yeah, you could...
Yeah, and it doesn't involve a huge amount of time. Sunshine, water,
and
nutrients.
Doesn't take up a huge amount of space either.
Exactly, because they're bonsai trees.
Yeah, it would be worse if you were growing like gum trees or something like that, because that seems like it's a terrible idea for anyone who's short on space. Bonsai trees, though, you could do it in on your balcony.
Exactly. Anyone could do this.
Well, you have really kind of delivered on creative. I honestly thought you were going to say, and I'm not meaning to be critical, but I honestly was expecting rent out your spare room on Airbnb.
That might be one on my list.
Oh, no. Oh, God, this is uncomfortable. Oh, this is so uncomfortable.
Actually, just kidding. Oh, no, that is actually point number 3. But then we'll come back to this. No. Take that back. I have a brilliant one, which I'm going to share as point number 3. It is not renting out your bedroom.
It used to be, didn't it?
Bear with me. It's a good one.
What's number 2?
Number 2 is handbags. Trading handbags. So I recently went to Tokyo, and because the Australian dollar is quite strong against the yen, I was able to buy a handbag, which I will admit was a birthday present / thank you for being our children's slave present as well combined. But I worked out if I sold that bag back in Australia, I'd make $1,300 cash.
Wow.
So if you know, and I also have a couple of handbags because handbags are my vice. I just love a beautiful handbag. Some handbags have actually gone up in value, so much so that one of my handbags has more than doubled in value.
Do you use it?
Absolutely.
Oh, so you don't...
If you have an eye for handbags, and this is, you know what's in demand, you know what's timeless, what holds its value, what brands are actually putting their prices up. Because some of these luxury brands have put their prices up, as much as 22% in the last 12 months. You can actually trade handbags and make a little sort of bounty of cash on the side. You look at me like you don't believe me.
Oh, no, I do believe you, but I wouldn't know where to start. Like, it's just...
What's more, and this is, I guess, a bit of a shout out for Visit Japan, but when you go shopping in Japan, if you take your passport, you could also get 10% cash back.
Really?
Yeah. So that bag I bought at a discount in Japan, I could sell here, and that is on top, not including the cash I got back.
Okay.
So instead of trading shares, you could trade handbags.
That is a very creative one. It feels like it's quite a niche.
It isn't. I did say, but some girls really know their handbags, and they know what the market is, and they know what brands are popular and what particular styles hold their value, and what ones to steer clear of and which ones are seasonal. And
it would be like me saying, you know what, go and dig out your Pokemon cards from when you were a kid and see if you got yourself an original holographic Charizard, because that thing's probably worth about $15,000 right now.
I'm going home tonight to go through Rocco's Pokemon cards.
Do it. I mean, admittedly, you need one from about kind of 1999 or thereabouts. And I have one. I don't know where it is.
Go home and find it. That is a gold mine sitting somewhere in your house.
I have searched. I have absolutely searched. And my brother and I shared all of these.
You still have it?
He said he found all of the other ones, but the Charizard was missing. Next week, he turned up driving a new car. Coincidence? I'm suggesting not. Anyway, that is a family conspiracy, and I'm airing it here today. What is point number 3?
All right, I have kind of set myself up for failure here, but it's actually subleasing. So one of my girlfriends does this and makes a killing. So she goes and rents properties with the permission and approval of the landlord and then subleases them on Airbnb. So, for example, say an apartment is rented out for, say, $1,000 a week for simplicity. She will then go with the landlord's permission, she furnishes it, she gets it cleaned, gets it styled, gets photographs taken, and then puts that property on Airbnb to be rented out per night, and say may have a minimum of two nights, maximum of, say, 6 nights, and is making a substantial profit.
And it's legal?
It is. You have to have permission. Obviously, there are certain rules and regulations that you must follow.
Yeah.
But yes, it is legal. So much so that she has inspired Tom and I to go and do this ourselves.
Really? To rent a place?
Well, we have a property that we own. So it's an investment property that was previously rented out, and we're now going to flick it to Airbnb because the increase in Airbnb rent is substantially bigger than the normal market value rent.
That is, I had never, obviously we've talked a lot about Airbnb and people doing that, but I've never heard of someone kind of renting a place and then kind of
It's done so well that she's actually got quite a few properties.
Oh, wow.
And there is a lot of, I guess, work involved because she likes to go in and check the property's in good condition still and everything's fine and obviously make sure that the apartment is in immaculate condition for the next guest. But it is brilliant, and she has full approval and permission from her landlords.
All right, that is 3 of the 6. Actually, no, we're going to do 8, aren't we?
We're going to see what Sugar Mum, I can hustle up for you.
Oh, God. Okay, well, we'll take a very quick break and you can get your hustle on the other side of it and we'll see what else we can find. All right, Kana, we are talking about side hustles. And these are side hustles that you might not have considered because you have talked a lot. We've done a number of episodes now on side hustles. And this time I really challenged you to come up with something a little bit different, things that we haven't heard before. And so far, you have had growing bonsai trees, trading handbags.
You could include watches on that list as well. So
really?
If you don't know your handbags, you may know your watches, luxury watches.
Oh, okay. Do you have a dream of, wouldn't you just love to find like a Rolex or an Omega or something in like Vinnie's? Wouldn't that be great?
Oh my gosh.
What about those? Actually, because you know how there are some kind of high-end fashion labels that do just pop up at kind of Vinnie's or Salvo stores.
I found a Hugo Boss blazer at Salvation Army.
Really? That would be quite an expensive item.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was just a tiny bit too big, but could have been altered. I actually ended up giving it away to someone because it was just a touch too big. Yeah. But yeah, it does happen.
And you looked really, really generous giving them a Hugo Boss jacket. And you're like, bought it at Salvo's.
Yeah.
Number 4. What's number 4 on your list?
All right. Weekend work doing people's makeup, people's hair, photography, and spray tanning. Now, one of my girlfriends runs a makeup institute, which is a proper legitimate, almost, I guess you could call it private college. And she trains these predominantly young girls how to become a professional makeup artist. And then they can go and use this skill as a freelancer on the weekends. They might go and work in salons. They might get some extra sort of freelancing work with one of the major television networks. And, you can do people's, for special events. A brilliant job to have that's incredibly flexible, that you pick and choose when you want to. And obviously you need to have the right equipment and so forth. But these are things that, skills that people may love doing naturally, and they can actually turn this into a side hustle.
I don't know whether it's for me. I can't see myself going out there and doing hair or makeup. I did try and do a double plait the other day. It was relatively successful.
A braid?
No, it was a double plait.
Oh, I think it's a plait a braid.
No. Braiding and plaiting are two different things, and braiding is infinitely harder than plaiting. I'm quite good at plaiting hair. I don't even know where to start with braiding. So therefore, I'm not going to be teaching people how to do hair. And I certainly do not hire me to do your hair for your wedding.
What about photography?
Yeah, I'd give that a go.
You could also do some copywriting as well, because you're a brilliant writer.
Well, maybe this is something.
This could be your side hustle.
I like this.
And I have girlfriends who have done people's spray tans, where they become a mobile spray tanner, where they turn up to your home with their pop-up tent.
Mm.
That person strips down to their birthday suit and they spray tan them, and $50 cash in hand. Of course, I will disclaim you must declare that to the ATO.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That is actually income, isn't it?
And that would be defrauding the tax system.
Which we are certainly not about. Number 5. What is the 5th side hustle on this list?
Reselling items. So going to places like St. Vincent's, Salvation Army, and finding items like those little hidden treasures and then selling them on social media. Now, there are lots of accounts on Instagram that I personally follow that do this with kids' clothes. And these are really good quality clothes, with no stains or rips. And they're really quite unique and special, and almost got like kind of this wholesome vintage feel about them. But that is definitely something where you can make a good profit, particularly, again, if you know your brands, what, good quality brands wear well, and understand the trends and styles.
Yeah.
And this also includes finding things that you can on-sell on social media. So I interviewed a woman who made she actually made more than this, but she only started counting when she was about, I think, a third of the way into doing this, but $21,000 by finding things on the side of the road and then on-selling them.
Okay, that is impressive. As in like the rubbish, the throw-out piles that people are putting out for their rubbish collection.
Clear up. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is impressive. As for the first one, I don't know. I feel a little bit uncomfortable with it. Because I suppose I kind of see that when you donate clothes, right, and when you're kind of donating good quality items, I kind of always feel like you want it then to go to someone who, like, needs it. That may be the best that they can afford, right? And it always it feels a little bit uncomfortable for me then to know that someone else who's running a business is coming in, scooping those up at kind of a fraction of the price and then reselling them for double or triple what they paid, which I know it's a business and I know it's kind of, it's a free market and you can do what you want, but it just feels a little bit uncomfortable.
Let me share an insight with you. So I personally went and had a bit of a tour to see what was going on here. At the end of the day, whether that, the Salvation Army or St. Vincent de Paul's is selling, a jumper for $2 to someone in need or someone who's going to make a profit, they are collecting that $2 that can go and then help that person in need and other families in need. The other thing is, and this is, I believe, because of the Marie Kondo sort of influence of huge spring cleans, there is actually an excess of stuff being dumped in these charities. So it actually helps the charities by getting this, call it stock, moved and collecting money. So I understand where you're coming from, and I actually thought the same thing as well. I felt like it just felt uncomfortable, almost like capitalizing and profiting off, a charity organization. But they actually, I think it was Salvation Army, they took me for a tour, and they're like, we don't have enough storage here.
Yeah.
And they were actually saying, we actually blame this Marie Kondo influence because and I could see people driving and dumping stuff and dropping stuff, and they can't move it fast enough. So you're horrible though, doing them a favor.
It's horrible when you see people dropping off things that, like, that should have been thrown out. Like it feels like it is just passing on your personal burden of getting rid of things onto somebody else. When really half that stuff should have actually been thrown out because it's not in a quality, it's not at a standard that you would expect. And if you're not going to be able to, if you wouldn't buy it and want to gift it to someone else, then why would you donate it to a charity and then they have to take on that burden of disposing of it? So I think I actually do. I take your point. Okay. I certainly do.
And look, they do, things that are broken, they do try and fix things and move them. And obviously they have a sort of zero waste approach in making sure that even things like clothes that are stained, they do try and cut them up and turn them into cleaning rags and send them off to, all areas around the world so that, there is really a minimum use of landfill involved. But I think if we can, you're actually supporting charity. Yeah. I mean, whether it came from $1 from me or $1 from someone off on the streets, like at the end of the day, that's what that money is going to. Something's going to have a powerful flow-on effect.
Yeah, I suppose it's the charities have a double purpose. One is to actually be an outlet, a source of those items directly for people, but it's also then to fund the operations of the charity to help other people. And so it's probably just where those two kind of collide that I think there is the potential for things to be a little bit uncomfortable. Who would have thought that item number 5 on this list would be so controversial? Cause so much conflict in the studio here today. Number 6. Is number 6 more kind of relaxed and easygoing?
It is. It actually only involves owning a car.
Okay.
So Amazon Flex. This is where you can, become a driver, a delivery partner, they call them. And you drive around doing what they call blocks and delivering packages in your local area.
I saw you did a bit of work with them.
I did, and no, this is not a sponsored episode, but I was so taken aback by the delivery partners. So I got to actually interview about 20 or 30 of these delivery partners, and I would ask each of them what their story was. Why are you doing this? How is this helping you? And I was really touched by how that money is helping people, but also add great value to their lives. So so many people were using this to save up for an upcoming holiday.
Yeah.
And they weren't just a holiday to the local caravan park. These are holidays like to Japan, to Bali, to India. There were some really beautiful stories. And the one thing that also came up was just how you can sit in your car listening to a podcast such as How Do They Afford That? Or Sugar Mama's Fire Play.
Or Fear and Greed.
Just
putting it out there.
Fast Five. Yep. You're working in an area that you're familiar with and you're delivering people's packages, and who doesn't like receiving a delivery?
I like this, but
yes.
I have some questions, which I suppose is my job on this podcast. Because I did a bit of research into Amazon Flex because I'm like, this actually looks really interesting because I actually think it would be fun to drive around and deliver, and the fact that you kind of do this 4-hour block. I'm like, okay, it actually kind of would be good. Is it financially worthwhile though when you kind of factor in your fuel and your wear and tear on your car and your insurance and all of this? Because I know that you do need to do a little bit of kind of training or a qualification essentially in order to do it. Does it all stack up financially?
Well, it's very subjective, and obviously everyone's in different situations, but from everyone I spoke to, when I asked them, their immediate answer was yes.
Really?
And there were mothers with children at school, so that 4-hour block with drop-off and pick-up worked perfectly. A lot of students as well, and people who had this as a second job just to help earn some extra money for those extra things that they wanted to have in their lives.
Because it's 4 hours, and I think it's... clearly, I spent a lot of time on the Amazon Flex.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, and this wasn't... I didn't even know that we were going to be talking about this. Clearly, I've been researching my side hustles independently. And I think it was like $120 or something would be the standard minimum that you would be paid for that period.
And the thing about it is that you can pick and choose. So if you've got a busy week and it doesn't suit you, you obviously don't go and book that block. But you know what I really liked about this? Mm-hmm. You're allowed to take a pet as a sort of...
From a house when you deliver the package.
No,
like,
for example, you can have your dog in the car. Obviously, they have to be properly harnessed. Mm-hmm. But you can have your dog as a companion in the car whilst doing your delivery. So
okay, so you can't help yourself.
Giuseppe will come for a ride with me.
Oh, that's actually
sounds have Peppy because you'll chew all the packages in the boot of my car.
Yes, he just eats half of it. And you're like, well, I didn't have much to deliver today. Oh, dear. Okay, so that was 6. Do you have a bonus for us?
I do. And that is becoming an entertainer at kids' birthday parties.
Do you have to have skills for this? Can you just go in and just...
Well, obviously you need to get a police check to make sure your child's safe. That goes without saying.
That would be a given. Can you just walk in and...
anyone who's creative, this is a brilliant side hustle.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever booked a child entertainer?
No.
I have. It's so expensive.
Really?
It's like between $150 to up to $350.
Heck.
And a lot of them you have to pay them cash. And they have a 50% booking fee. This is non-refundable. But when I've booked them a couple of times, but you don't actually have to have a huge amount of stuff because quite often, for example, Rocco had a My Little Pony party. I think he was turning about maybe 4 or 5. She had about 3 or 4 different My Little Pony parties to go to. So she didn't have to have a wide range of different outfits. And she had the same toys, the same games, the same routine for each of those parties.
I would make balloon animals. I can make
Do you know how to make balloon animals? Oh, okay.
I can make a snake and a worm and...
a caterpillar and a centipede and a millipede.
No, they're too difficult. That requires too many knots. I just need one single tube and I draw a little face on it and I go, there you go, kid. I will not be invited back.
There is your next side hustle.
That is a terrible idea for me, a great idea for other people. That's a good list.
Why, thank you.
All right, well, that's 7. You did promise us 8.
8.
Because you are very superstitious and believe that 8 will bring you good fortune.
Mm-hmm.
Go on.
And that is renting out your baby equipment. So for people when they're traveling and they don't want to pack 300,000 toys, they don't have the space to maybe pack the cot, the bassinet, all those wonderful devices that come with children and that you need to have with your children when you're traveling, to make sure that they are there at your hotel or even at your Airbnb when you arrive, all set up, all hygienically cleaned, having that as a side hustle. And obviously initial investment of buying all those things, which you could potentially buy pre-loved or even pick up from Salvation Army.
Or you might have them already.
But then you rent them out.
That's a great idea.
Why, thank you.
You did leave a slightly too long a gap when you said rent out your baby stuff. And I just had this image of someone renting out a baby in order to get onto the flight first or something. You know how you get kind of like these, you can kind of go through the priority access to go through customs and stuff if you've got a baby and things. Like there's a lot of advantages to having a child.
There is. You can really skip those queues. And I'm very good at faking the distressed mother look to help people let me go.
Really? Can you do it for me right now?
I just look normally because I'm always distressed with my 3 crazy kids.
That's outstanding because you look quite relaxed here. And I think it's because
my kids aren't with me right now, that's why.
And it's because we're talking about side hustles.
That's true.
Okay, so the absence of children, presence of side hustles makes you very happy.
Exactly.
It makes me happy too because we've got 8. Growing bonsai trees, trading handbags, Airbnb. The Airbnb one, that's an interesting
one. She's making a lot of money.
Okay. And the weekend work, makeup, hair, photography, all that kind of thing. That's good. I like that. It's about kind of using your skills. Number 5 was reselling items. That was a controversial one for us there. Amazon Flex was number 6. Children's entertainment at parties. That's fun. Balloon animals, face painting, kind of telling funny jokes. It could be disastrous, couldn't it? And number 8, renting out your baby stuff. That's a good list. Savings hack time. I have one.
So do I.
Too bad. I'm in first. This is from Naomi. And I had to apologize to Naomi because she contacted me via Instagram, Michael Thompson Author, which is where all the good tips go. All the good savings hacks go there. And Naomi did that. She heard a call out earlier in the year for people to contact me, not you. And she did that. And I missed it entirely. And like 5 months later, I was going through, I'm like, oh my God, there's a message here from Naomi. And so I wrote back to her and apologized profusely. Anyway, that's the backstory. And it is a rolled gold commitment to other people considering sending me tips. Send them and I will respond very quickly, and I will not leave it 4 to 5 months.
Or you can just send them directly to me, and within minutes I will reply back, say thank you so much, and let you know that I will be using your savings hack if you send them directly to myself, Canna at Sugar Mama TV, or at Canna Campbell Official.
No, we won't be doing that. They'll all be coming to me, Michael Thompson Author, at Instagram. Now, Naomi says, hi, Michael. I listened to How Do They Afford That and thought I would send my savings hack to you instead of Canna. Thank you. I hate direct debit fees, so I pay in advance where I can. Now, this is interesting because I didn't realize direct debit was so expensive. She said, examples are my daughter's swimming and gymnastics lessons. Direct debits are fortnightly, and this costs me an additional $70 per year because one of them is $1.70, the other one is $1. So I now pay upfront in person 1 week in advance of the direct debit date, so I'm never behind, so it never just automatically takes it out of the account. It's no hassle as I'm physically there. I'm at the swimming lessons, I'm at the gymnastics lessons, and it's just a quick tap, and then I'm done. And I have saved myself $70 per year. I think that is a very interesting idea.
It is. It's a little time consuming, but I guess if you're there
and anyway,
you remember, that's great.
And if you're just watching the swimming lesson or you're watching the gymnastics lesson, why wouldn't you use that time just to go on, you know what, I'm going to go and save a bit of cash, tap, save some money.
Naomi, you are one very organised woman.
Yep.
I could probably learn a lot from Naomi.
Yes, very wise because she sent it to me. Anyway, Canna, how do we find you? You mentioned it before, Instagram
at Sugar Mama TV and Canna Campbell Official for not only to get in contact, but to share the love with me with your savings hacks.
And you can hear me every day with Sean Aylmer on Fear and Greed, Australia's best business podcast. Thank you for listening to How Do They Afford That? Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And the very best thing you can do is to tell somebody else or even just send them this episode. Spread the word about How Do They Afford That? Thank you very much for your company. Join us again next week.